So let's talk about you. Is your personality just set in stone? Is it a kind of fate that you can't escape? Or is it maybe more like a framework, something you can actually get to know and work with? That is the big question we're diving into today. And we're going to do it by looking at one of the most famous personality tools out there.
Okay, so let's just jump right in with a huge question. What's really driving your life? I mean, think about it. When you make a big decision about your job, about a relationship, is that really you in the driver's seat? Or is there something else kind of pulling the strings?
You know, the famous psychologist Carl Jung had a really powerful way of looking at this. He said, until you make the subconscious conscious, it will run your life and you will call it fate. Whoa, just let that sink in for a minute.
So what did he mean by that? Well, in other words, the parts of your mind that you're not even aware of, they're the ones calling the shots. We might blame our circumstances on fate or bad luck, but Jung's saying, nope, a lot of the time it's just the hidden parts of you steering the ship. Okay, so if our subconscious is this huge, uncharted territory, how are we supposed to explore it? How do you get a map to figure out what's even going on in there?
Well, believe it or not, this is exactly where a tool like the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, you've probably heard of it, the MBTI, comes into play. It was literally created to be that map. It's a framework designed to shine a light on those unconscious patterns and make them, well, conscious.
And the backstory here is pretty cool. It all started with Carl Jung's really deep, kind of complex theories about psychological types, way back in the 1920s. But his ideas were pretty academic. It wasn't until the 1940s that this incredible mother-daughter duo, Katharine Briggs and Isabel Myers, took Jung's big ideas and turned them into a practical, hands-on tool that regular people could actually use.
All right, so how does this thing actually work? What's under the hood? Let's get into the mechanics of how the MBTI charts your personality.
Basically, it all boils down to 4 key areas. The tool sorts your personality into one of 16 different types based on your natural preferences across these 4 dimensions. Think of it like 4 sliding scales.
So the first one is all about energy. It's basically asking, how do you recharge your battery? Do you get energized by being around people and interacting with the world? That's extroversion with an E. Or do you recharge by spending time alone with your own thoughts? That's introversion with an I.
Next up is information. How do you prefer to take in the world around you? Do you tend to focus on the concrete reality, what you can see, hear, and touch right now? That's sensing with an S. Or are you more drawn to the big picture, looking for patterns, possibilities, and the meaning behind things? That's intuition with an N. Okay, third is decisions. When you have to make a choice, what's your go-to process? Do you lean on objective logic and analysis? What makes the most sense on paper? That's thinking with a T. Or do you put more weight on your values and how the decision will impact the people involved? That's feeling with an F.
And the last one is all about organization, or how you like to live your life. Are you someone who loves a plan? You like things decided, organized, and settled. That points to a judging preference with a J. Or are you more of a go-with-the-flow person, spontaneous, flexible, and happy to keep your options open? That's perceiving with a P.
So you put it all together. You take one letter from each of those 4 pairs and boom, you get your 4-letter type code, something like ISTJ or ENFP. And each of those 16 combinations gives a unique snapshot of a person's personality.
Okay, that all sounds really neat, right? It's a cool framework. But here's the million-dollar question. Is the map even accurate? Can we actually trust it? I mean, is this real science or just a bit of fun?
Right, because for this whole thing to be genuinely useful, we have to ask, is it trustworthy? Does it hold up to scientific scrutiny?
So when scientists look at a test like this, they ask 2 main questions. The first is about reliability. That just means, does the test give you consistent results? If you take it today and then again in a few months, will you get the same type? The second question is about validity. This one's a bit different. It asks, does the test actually measure what it says it's measuring?
So what's the official word? Well, according to its publisher, the Myers-Briggs Company, the answer is a pretty confident yes. They say the MBTI performs well on both reliability and validity, and they've got the research to back it up.
Let's dig into that evidence a bit. On the reliability front, getting consistent results, a major meta-analysis, which is like a study of studies, found that the MBTI has really strong test-retest reliability. That means your results are pretty likely to stay consistent over time.
It also has strong internal consistency, which is a fancy way of saying the questions for each category all hang together nicely.
Okay, but what about validity? Does it actually measure personality? Well, the evidence here is pretty interesting. For one, the MBTI types correlate really well with other big, well-respected personality models. Its internal structure also holds up when you run the stats. But maybe the coolest part is that it's been shown to relate to actual real-world behaviors. And that's where it gets really useful.
Let me give you a concrete example. One study looked at learning styles and found something fascinating. People who identified as introverts, they were way more likely to prefer online classes. And the extroverts, you guessed it, they much preferred good old face-to-face instruction. See? That's a perfect example of how your type can predict a real, everyday preference.
Okay, so let's say the map is pretty solid. What do you do with it? How are people actually putting this tool to use out there in the real world?
Well, it's used all over the place. Companies use it to help managers become more self-aware. Career counselors use it to help you figure out what kind of job might be a great fit. It's also a huge tool for teams to understand each other better and, hopefully, work together more smoothly. Really, it all comes down to understanding your own personal strengths.
But you know, maybe the most important use of all brings us right back to where we started, back to Carl Jung. The real magic isn't just seeing your strengths. It's that the MBTI can show you your pitfalls, the things that can trip you up without you even realizing it. It helps you see your own blind spots.
So at the end of the day, is the MBTI a perfect 100% accurate map of your entire personality? No, probably not. Nothing is. But could it be a really useful mirror? A framework that helps you finally see those unconscious patterns that, just like Jung said, might be running your life? Now that's a question worth thinking about.